This is part 2 of 33, the series, what it is and how to use it. In part 1, I gave you an overview of the 6 volumes of content. I also talked about the tools you need, particularly the training guides and the video options. Now, let's look at how you can create the best context or environment to promote good conversations. Some small groups watch the sessions individually and meet just for discussion. Well, this format opens up more venue options because you're not limited to places where you can gather and watch the sessions together. The challenge is to get everyone to watch them on their own before the meeting. In this case, each participant will need to purchase a video bundle, or the videos will need to be stored on a private platform that can only be accessed by the group. If you have a connection with a church or organization that subscribes to Right Now Media, each man in the group can set up a free profile and gain access to all 6 volumes of 33, the series. Groups can also meet on a virtual platform that has screen sharing capabilities. This will allow them to watch the sessions together, followed by a discussion. Or they can agree to watch the sessions individually and use the virtual meeting just for discussion. But be aware that most free platforms have participant and time limits. So check out the features in the free and subscription versions of your preferred platform to help you prepare for this type of small group experience. Now, most groups will watch the sessions gathered in a space together, followed by discussion. And these can be small groups of 6 to 8 or larger gatherings of 30, 50, 100 or more. Roundtables set up for 6 to 8 are best to promote good conversations, but auditorium seating can also work to watch the sessions if the men can then circle up the chairs in small groups when it's time for discussion. When I first started doing 33, we met in a large room with several hundred men. There just wasn't enough space to set up tables. So we used auditorium seating to accommodate the crowd. At the end of the sessions, the men would circle their chairs into small groups of 6 to 8 and just go for it. Man, it was chaotic and loud, but the energy was incredible. And the men were somehow able to tune out the conversations around them and tune in to the discussions in their groups. Now, 33, the series, is an excellent tool to help church guys grow in their faith, but I like to use it to reach all guys. So for this purpose, when it comes to the best context, you need to think like an outsider, a man who may or may not know much about Jesus. He just knows he needs help being a man. Think about the environment. It shouldn't feel sterile or classroomish. You and your leaders need to arrive early and start warming up the room with proper lighting and music. I suggest something other than church music, just to put the unchurched guys at ease. You could also have ESPN playing on the video screens with the volume down. Just try to create a context where men can relax, a context where conversations are more likely to be natural. And do all those things before men start arriving. Public gatherings need a host to get the session started and to set things up for discussion. When I lead a group like this, I always have my training guide in hand. I explain how to use it. At the end of the sessions, I typically share some of my strategic moves that I wrote down in my training guide. And as we progress through a volume, I'll also ask some of the men ahead of time to come prepared to share their strategic moves, or maybe about 3 minutes of their personal story that relates to the content. Now, right before the discussion time, this is important, I always give the men these 3 guidelines. Okay, I kind of call them rules of engagement. Number 1, don't reteach the session. Number 2, don't dominate the discussion. And number 3, be sure that every man has a chance to talk if he wants to. Now, hosts, listen up. You also need to be sure not to reteach the session. Here's why. A 30-minute session is packed with a lot of content. Adding 10 to 15 minutes of additional content will take away from the discussion time. Your role as the host is to create a welcoming environment where men can begin to connect in meaningful conversations about the truths they're learning. So, whatever you share, keep it short, keep it personal. Stick to how you plan to apply what you are learning. If it's concise and to the point, man, it can be an icebreaker for some good conversations. I like to plan for about an hour and 15 minutes for each session. This allows time for a brief welcome and then a 30-minute video. If you have 6 men per group and you want each man to have 5 minutes to share something, we'll do the math, okay? That adds another 30 minutes. 8 men in a group adds 40 minutes. You can schedule more than an hour and 15 minutes for the gathering, but any less may not leave enough time for discussion. I like soft endings in large public gatherings, so the last thing the host will say after the session video is to give instructions to start discussion. Some groups will finish early. Others may need more time. Just encourage the men to respect the other groups around them as they leave if their group ends early. At the end of each session, there are about 3 or 4 discussion questions in the training guide. The goal is not for men to ask and answer each question, but to have meaningful conversations about the truths they're learning and to share their personal applications. The questions are to just get the conversation started. So you can use some of them, all of them, or none of them. Now, what about small group leaders? Well, if you assign small group leaders, be sure that they understand their role is to facilitate discussions, not to teach the sessions. It's okay if you don't have designated leaders. Just encourage someone in the group to read the first question and start talking about it. I think some of the best environments to experience 33 are in venues outside the church. Places like a coffee shop or a private room in a restaurant, a patio, a gym, maybe a gun club, a car dealership in the morning before it opens, a boardroom at your business, a conference room at a hotel. The objective is to create a context where men are more likely to gather and engage in these conversations about manhood. You know, there have even been some very successful 33 gatherings at cigar shops where men naturally gather and enjoy conversations. I think that men desperately need to experience these kinds of conversations, but we also need much more than that. You see, the goal is for these conversations to lead to soul-level connections and accountability. And I'll talk more about that in part 3 of 33, what it is and how to use it.